Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Deep Dive. This is brought to you by mychesco.com, and I'm really glad you could join us.
Great to be here.
So this is the place, where we take your sources, all that info you've gathered, and we really dig into them.
Yeah, cut through the noise.
Exactly. Our mission is basically to pull out the key insights, help you get up to speed quickly, maybe find a few surprising things along the way, and, well, hopefully keep it interesting.
Definitely.
Today, we're diving into something really important, something that definitely hits close to home for a lot of us here. It's about a big economic forum called Economic Crossroads, where we are and where we're headed.
And I'm here to help unpack that. It's a pleasure to dive in.
Fantastic.
And for you listening, especially if you're right here in Chester County, Pennsylvania, this isn't just, academic stuff. It's really practical. I mean, think about it. These big economic shifts happening globally, trade policy changes, even the rising costs you see at the grocery store or the gas pump.
Yeah, you feel it.
You feel it directly. It affects families, local businesses, just our overall well-being right here. So this deep dive is about connecting those dots, showing you the bigger picture and how it lands locally.
Absolutely. It's real life, not just theory.
So look, if you find this valuable, if you like what we're doing here, please do us a favor, like, share, subscribe.
It really helps.
It really does. Helps us bring more of these deep dives to you. And remember, for all things Chester County news, events, head over to mychesco.com.
Good resource.
Okay, so let's get into it. This event, Economic Crossroads, was held right here in Chester County. And it wasn't just some small meeting. It was a collaboration, right? Co-hosted by the Chester County Commissioners, the Chester County Chamber of Business and Industry, we'll call them CCCBI.
Right, and the CCET.
And the Chester County Economic Development Council, CCEDC.
Yeah.
And the main speaker, the one sort of guiding the discussion, was Dr. Mark Zandi. He's the chief economist at Moody Analytics.
Big name in the field, definitely. He was there to give a clear look at where the economy's heading from, local stuff right here all the way out to the national and global scene.
And what made it particularly timely, really compelling, actually, was the context.
Oh, what was that?
Well, his own firm, Moody's, had just recently downgraded the U.S. government's credit rating.
Right, I remember that. That's a big deal, isn't it?
It is. For anyone not deep in financial markets, a downgrade like that, especially for the U.S., it's a signal. It suggests the perceived risk of lending to the government has gone up, even a little bit.
Okay, and the ripple effect?
Well, potentially, it could mean higher borrowing costs for the government, and that can, trickle down. Higher interest rates for consumers, mortgages, car loans, business credit. It also affects how the dollar is viewed internationally.
So having Zandi speak right after that.
Exactly. Getting his direct take right then was incredibly valuable for the, over 100 leaders, business owners, policymakers who were there. Real clarity at a crucial moment.
That really does add weight to it. It's not just theory, it's unfolding right now. So, okay, let's dig into his core insights then. Looking nationally, globally, what did he flag as the critical issues really shaping things?
He laid out a few key things, and he stressed these aren't just, blips on the radar. They're more like structural shifts.
Okay, like what?
First, the lasting impacts of global trade tensions. For a long time, we had this fairly predictable global system, but now with geopolitics and policy changes, supply chains are basically being rewired.
Rewired? How so?
Think about a product you buy. Maybe last year, its parts came from 3 different continents. Now companies are seriously looking at reshoring, bringing production back home, or maybe friendshoring, moving it to allied countries.
Okay.
And that's not just about where stuff is made. It affects cost, availability, even how quickly new versions come out. It hits everything from your phone to the materials a local manufacturer here in Chester County needs.
So less a temporary issue, more a fundamental rethink of global trade.
Precisely. And flowing right from that, he talked about the future of tariffs.
Tariffs, always a hot topic.
Always. And just quickly, tariffs are basically taxes on imported goods. They've been used historically to protect industries or raise money. But Zandi pointed out they've taken on a new, maybe more strategic role in U.S. economic policy now.
Okay. So what's the outlook there, and how does that hit us locally?
Well, he discussed what might be coming next, and this is where it gets really local. Commissioner Josh Maxwell, for instance, he made the point that these tariffs have created a lot of uncertainty for businesses right here in Chester County.
Uncertainty how?
If you're a local company relying on imported parts, a sudden new tariff jacks up your costs, makes your product pricier, less competitive.
Right.
And for families, those higher import costs. they often end up as higher prices on the shelves. Commissioner Maxwell specifically mentioned that while the idea might be to boost domestic production, we have to make sure the approach actually supports sustainable growth, stable markets, and really key for Chester County agricultural production.
That makes perfect sense. You can really see the line from a Washington policy decision straight to, well, the price of milk or materials for a local factory.
Exactly.
What else? Beyond trade and tariffs, what other big trends did Zandi say we need to watch?
He moved into those more familiar but still absolutely critical economic indicators, the things businesses, investors, everyone really needs to keep an eye on. He sort of broke down the interplay between interest rates, inflation, the labor market, and, of course, the risk of recession.
Okay, let's quickly unpack those because they pop up all the time. Interest rates.
Yeah, basically the cost of borrowing money. Rates go up, your mortgage costs more, car loan, a business line of credit. It all gets more expensive. Tends to cool down spending and investment, slows the economy.
Right, and inflation.
That's the rate. Prices are generally going up, right? Your dollar buys less over time if wages don't keep up. Zandi offered his take on whether the pressures we're seeing are temporary or maybe more baked in.
Okay, labor markets.
That's supply and demand for jobs. He talked about how tight the job market is, now fewer workers for open positions. That pushes wages up, good for workers, but it can also fuel inflation and make it tough for businesses trying to hire.
And the R word, recession risk.
Yeah, the big slowdown. He didn't predict, an imminent crash or anything severe, but he definitely advised keeping a watchful eye. He outlined the factors that could push us one way or the other. It's like the economy's walking a bit of a tightrope between resilience and, well, uncertainty.
Okay, let's bring it all home now. We've got these big national global forces Zandi laid out. It's a complex picture. But what does this actually mean for us right here in Chester County? How do his forecasts hit our local reality, our jobs, businesses, daily life?
Yeah, this is where it got really practical for the people in the room. Zandi specifically connected his broader forecasts to southeastern Pennsylvania and to Chester County. He talked about GDP growth, gross domestic product, that measure of overall economic activity, and what different growth scenarios would mean here. So if national growth slows, what does that do to jobs at our local tech companies? Or expansion plans for hospitals?
Okay, making it concrete.
Exactly. And he got specific about how inflation would keep affecting local costs, how the tight labor market impacts hiring in our industries, what interest rate trends mean for our real estate market or getting a small business loan here. He even touched on things like political uncertainty, global instability, tech disruption like AI, and how those wider trends play out for specific local businesses. These aren't abstract ideas. They translate directly into decisions local employers make, choices job seekers face, how every household budgets.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. Hearing from our own local leaders who were at this event, what was their take? How do they connect Zandi's points to Chester County?
They really reinforced how timely and crucial his message was, grounding it right here. Chester County Commissioner and Board Chairman Josh Maxwell, he said, Zandi's advice and wisdom come at a crucial time as we reflect on where our economy is headed.
That's a crucial time, yeah.
And he elaborated, saying we need to take a thoughtful look at the impacts of recent trade policies, particularly tariffs, which have introduced uncertainty for Chester County businesses and contributed to rising costs for local families.
There's that uncertainty point again.
Right. And he added that while boosting domestic production might be the goal, the national approach needs to support sustainable growth, stable markets, and he specifically called this out agricultural production, noting it's particularly important here in Chester County. Shows that direct link between national policy and our local farms and businesses.
So it's not just abstract trends, it's how those trends are actually felt by our neighbors, by the businesses we rely on. That's key.
Absolutely. And we also heard from Laura Mannion. She's the president of the CCCBI, the chamber. She said they were honored to host Dr. Zandi, stating that with trade policy, tariffs, and interest rates top of mind for so many of our businesses, his insights offered clarity and perspective at a critical moment.
Clarity, that's what businesses need, right?
Exactly. Her comments really highlight how these big economic forces become immediate headaches or opportunities for business owners just trying to plan day to day, let alone for the future. Getting some clarity in a confusing time is huge.
And the Economic Development Council, the CCEDC, what was their angle on this?
Mike Grigolonis, the president over at CCEDC, he pointed out something interesting, not just Zandi's expertise, but that he's actually a Chester County native.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Apparently so, which makes his insights feel even more connected, right? Grigolonis stressed what he called the power of partnership. The county government, the chamber, CCEDC, working together to bring these kinds of important conversations to the business community.
Makes sense. Collaboration.
Right. He finished by saying that by thoughtfully examining the current state of our economy, we lay the groundwork for informed planning and better economic outcomes for Chester County and beyond. It really shows our local leaders are trying to be proactive, equipping people with the knowledge they need.
So, okay, after hearing all this, what's the bottom line for you listening right now? Why does knowing about this Economic Crossroads event, understanding Zandi's insights, why does it actually matter for your life, your money, your job? It's got to be more than just, being informed, right?
Oh, absolutely. It really boils down to empowerment. Simple as that.
Empowerment how?
Well, in an economy that changes this fast, having this understanding helps you make smarter decisions, more strategic ones.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay. Say you understand interest rates are likely to stay higher for longer. That might influence your decision about taking out a big loan, maybe refinancing the house, right? Or if you know the job market is tight in certain sectors, maybe that gives you more confidence in salary talks or helps you target industries where there's strong growth. It's about being proactive, not just reacting when something hits you.
Seeing around the corner a little bit.
Exactly. This knowledge pushes you to think critically, to question the headlines, consider different viewpoints as you figure out your own situation. It's about seeing the forces behind the news that affect your wallet, your job, your community, like having a better map when the landscape keeps shifting.
Yeah, a clearer map. I like that. Being proactive, not reactive. Okay. And that leads us to maybe a final thought for you to take away from this deep dive. As we think about this constant push and pull, right? These huge global economic forces swirling around, and then our local resilience right here in Chester County. How much can what we do locally, our actions, our individual decisions, how much can that truly steer things? What's your role in that bigger picture? Is it about adapting, innovating, speaking up, maybe all of that? It's a big question, for sure, but definitely something worth mulling over.
Definitely food for thought.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thank you so much for tuning in, for joining us as we explored these economic crossroads facing Chester County.
Thanks for listening.
Staying informed on this stuff, it really does make a difference. And hey, for comprehensive coverage of everything, Chester County news, info, events, all the latest, make sure you visit mychesco.com.
Great place to stay updated.
Absolutely. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.